I did another story recently for MintPress News called They gave this title. I don't really put these titles, guys. Please excuse me if these titles are boring. Bureaucratic hurdles and spotty access to medicinal cannabis gives rise to cannabis refugees. I like the idea of cannabis refugees. Some people say it's disrespectful. I think it makes sense. And this is based off a trip I took. And I know if you've listened to me before, then you've heard me talk about this trip because this was back in October. I took a trip to New York and then to California and drove with Danny Penzel, who's a filmmaker currently making the documentary Does Pot Cure Cancer? Check out doespotcurecancer.com. And traveled with him for 6 days. You can find the interviews from this documentary, from this article, the ones I conducted, on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/consciousresistance, including a mini documentary, a 3-minute mini documentary about my time, and an interview with Howard Wendell, who is the former police officer who now helps cannabis patients get their medicine that we discuss in this article. But if you want to hear the longer details, this article would be for you. And I hope that you will give it a few minutes of your time because it's about 1,400 words that I wrote. And I'm not going to go too much into it because I want you to discover this for yourself. But I go through the history of cannabis laws, the current state of cannabis decriminalization, and Danny's efforts to research this by traveling across the country. Danny says that when my mother was going through chemo for breast cancer, it became obvious that the chemo was killing her. I started to do research about alternative holistic approaches. I discovered the research about how cannabis treats cancer by accident and was blown away by what had been discovered in the past 30 years that even most doctors aren't aware of. So Danny sets out to go film this documentary and see what he can find out. He's been traveling the United States now for the last couple of years, looking at the experts in cannabis research, including business, medical, the health professionals, the patients, the growers, all the different people involved in this cannabis industry, and finding out what he can. And I went and caught up with him in Southern California. As I said, we went to Mendocino County, what is known as the Emerald Triangle, and we got to meet some awesome people. And this story covers it. I don't want to give too much of it away because it involves a young lady named Aubrey, her dealing with epilepsy, everything that they've had to deal with, and how she has been using CBD oil to treat herself, and has now just reduced her seizures, having an amazing time. And then how Howard Wendell, the former police officer, has just had a change of heart and was really unaware of what he was doing when he was locking people up for their lives, for cannabis. And then we also look at the research behind, the reasons why this research isn't getting funded, the U.S. government's reluctance to do this, while at the same time holding a patent for it. And we look at some doctors, including Dr. Donald Abrams from the University of California in San Francisco, who supports cannabis medicine. He's after all, he's involved at San Francisco's Osher Center for Integrative Medicine, which focuses on complementary and alternative therapies, holistic therapies. He's a medical doctor, but he looks at alternative and integrative therapies, and he supports cannabis, but he doesn't think that it's the cure-all that some people are making it out to be. And in the end, he's just offering, I think, a conservative, as he puts it, a reserved, optimistic but cautious and measured response to interesting cannabis research. He says, one of the biggest heartaches I have is patients coming to see me only to talk about cannabis or cannabis oil as a cancer treatment. He says, if I say I'm going to give you a new chemotherapy for your cancer and it's going to make your hair fall out, you're going to vomit for 3 days and your bone marrow is going to be suppressed, I should have good evidence it works. If I'm going to tell you to eat more blueberries or to get a massage twice a month, how much harm is that going to do? And how much evidence do I need to generate that that's beneficial? I would put cannabis oil somewhere between those two extremes of the spectrum. Even still, he says that 75% of physicians are in favor of medical cannabis, and oncologists, which is his group, he says are the largest at 82%. And he was also involved in a recent study which concluded cannabinoids may be of benefit in the treatment of cancer-related pain, possibly synergistic with opioid analgesics, so along with some opiates. The study also noted cannabinoids have been shown to be of benefit in the treatment of HIV-related peripheral neuropathy, suggesting that they may be worthy of study in patients with other neuropathic symptoms. So, you have to look at this. Why does the U.S. government hold 2 patents for treating cancer with cannabis oil, while at the same time saying it has no medical value, and while locking people up and making people have to save for several years to move out of their home states to go somewhere where they can safely treat themselves with a plant. And we also have to look at this deeper and ask, why do we allow this idea that the government, this giant institution, knows what's best for us and can and should have anything to do with what you put in your body? That's really, where I think it should rest. The government should have nothing to do with what you're putting in your body, victimless crimes like this, what you ingest, how you treat yourself, how you medicate yourself. The government shouldn't be involved in that, plain and simple, and I think most of us can agree on that. So check out that article on mintpressnews.com.